Hey guys! So, I don't know about you, but when it gets hot outside, I get very lazy with my makeup. I just want very simple, easy, effortless makeup, and that is what I love so much about one and done eyeshadows. So today I'm going to be sharing all of my favorite one and done eyeshadows. My favorite thing about these shadows is that they make it look like I put way more effort into my eye look than I actually did, and all of these are from the drugstore, or at least drugstore priced brands. So let's start with some eyeshadow sticks. This is one of my favorite formats for a one and done shadow because it's so easy to apply, and really the best eyeshadow sticks are the ones that also double as an eyeshadow primer, or that are going to really lock into place and not budge or crease. That way you don't have to go in with that extra step of an eyeshadow primer. So that's what I love so much about these e.l.f. No Budge shadow sticks. I have 3 shades. They come in a lot more shades as well, but the great thing about these is, at least on me, now I don't have the most oily lids ever. If you do have really oily eyelids, you might still want to go in with an eyeshadow primer just to be safe, but for me, these last all day and they don't crease. So I have 3 shades here. I'm actually wearing, well, funnily enough, I'm wearing 2 of the one and done eyeshadows on my eyes right now, but one of the ones I'm wearing right now is the e.l.f. No Budge shadow stick in the shade Rose Gold. So this is great if you like a lighter shadow, you don't want something too taupey or brown, and you can see this has a beautiful metallic shine, but you can see when I turn it away from the light, it does have some good depth to it. So that makes it a great one and done shadow because it gives my lid that shine, but then in the crease, it does give a bit of definition as well. So this shade is great for those of you that want a soft, rosy eye look. Another one of my favorites from these e.l.f. No Budge shadow sticks is the shade Magnetic Pull. I know this one is really popular. I've heard this one compared even to the Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize shadow in Oyster Pearl. So this is more of a taupe shade. You can see here a nice grayish taupe. This one has a more satin finish, so if you're not super into like really sparkly or metallic eyeshadows, this would be a great one to check out, especially if you like cool toned shadows. This is a very cool grayish taupe, but it does have like a little bit of a rosy undertone you can see, so I do feel like it still blends into my skin tone pretty well. Sometimes grayish tones can be tricky to pull off, but this one I find really flattering. So that is a great just everyday cool toned option. And then a slightly warmer toned option from e.l.f. This I would say is actually my favorite of the 3 No Budge shadow sticks that I own from them. This is the shade Copper Chic, and this one really is more of like a medium warm brown tone, but I like that it has a bit of a taupiness to it. I don't usually like overly warm brassy copper shades on my eyes, but this one I really like. I find it very flattering, and at first you might think that this might go on a little bit too deep, especially if you have very fair skin, but I'm actually, to my surprise, I feel like this takes on more of like just a mid-toned depth on my lids. It doesn't look too deep and smoky, so I still think this makes a great just everyday like soft natural eyeshadow. Speaking of shadow sticks, I also love the hard candy shadow sticks. So these are called the high def eyeshadow markers, around the same price point as the e.l.f. These are $6 a piece, the e.l.f. ones are $5, so pretty much the same. And the 2 shades I have here are both also very taupe. One of them is matte though, and this is actually the only matte eyeshadow in this roundup today. This is the shade Stoned. And I'm normally, like if I have a choice between matte and shimmer, normally I pick shimmer, but this is a matte shadow that I really, really love. I just think it's the perfect shade of taupe. I think this would make a great one, especially if you don't want to make a big statement with your makeup. Maybe you're just trying to keep things subtle, you don't want too much sparkle or anything. I think this makes such a great everyday neutral eyeshadow. It just frames the eyes beautifully. I think this would complement so many eye colors. I think it looks great with my blue eyes, but I think it would also complement green, brown eyes. That I think actually is my favorite of all the hard candy eye def eyeshadow sticks. I used to have more, and these were actually the only 2 shades that I kept from the line. So the other shade I have is Pony, and this is another taupe. Surprise, surprise. There's a lot of taupe in this video. I just think taupe lends itself well to one and done eyeshadow looks, but Pony is kind of similar to Magnetic Pull from e.l.f. This is almost like, to me, a cross between Magnetic Pull and Copper Chic from e.l.f. in one. This one I would say does have a somewhere in between a satin and metallic finish. I wouldn't call it like a full-on like foiled metallic shade, but it's also more metallic than a satin finish. But this actually has almost a purple shift to it that I think is really unique. And by the way, these hard candy eyeshadow sticks actually remind me a lot of the e.l.f. ones. I think the formula is very similar. These also don't require an eyeshadow primer underneath for me. They do lock into place. Like these swatches on my hand, once they dry down, they are staying put. Even like soap and water is not going to get these off. You're going to have to go in with like an oil-based makeup remover or cleanser. So those are some of my favorite eyeshadow sticks. Now let's chat about some potted eyeshadows. So first up, let me go ahead and share the other one that I'm wearing on my eyes today. So like I said, I am wearing the e.l.f. No Budge Shadow Stick in Rose Gold, but I also have this on top of that. But this also makes a great shadow just on its own. The reason I'm wearing both of these is because these were the last two that I filmed like demo swatches of on my lids today, and originally I had the e.l.f. shadow stick on one eye and the flower on the other, so then I decided to just have both on both eyes, so I went back over the eye with the flower with the e.l.f. shadow stick and vice versa. So those two shades together made this very sparkly rose gold eye look, but the flower chrome crushed pressed pigment in the shade Quartz. So this is more of a translucent sparkly shade. This also makes a great topper. I love wearing this over just any eye look. If I just want to add some sparkle to any look, this is what I grab. But it also makes a beautiful one shadow look just on its own. This really is like a pressed pigment. It actually comes with this little like plastic, I don't know what you'd call that, a stopper, I guess, that I've actually just kept in there. So anytime I am putting the lid back on, I'll just put that on there first. And that just keeps the shadow pressed into place. And I also think it will help keep it from drying out over time. But look at how beautiful this is. This is a drugstore eyeshadow that looks so expensive. So you can see it has a very translucent base, which makes it great to use as a topper. But I also think this gives such a beautiful, almost like wet, glistening sheen to the lids if you just wear this by itself. I think it's so pretty. It's such a misconception that you need to have, you know, something deeper in the crease in the outer corner to have a complete eye look. You can just have a really light, like translucent shimmer all over the lid and just call it a day. You could just put this all from your lid to your brow bone, and it's just going to create the most beautiful, just gorgeous, wet looking shadow. And these come in a few other shades as well. This is the only one I have. I do want to note though that there are two different finishes within the line. So if you see on Ulta's website, Quartz is described as one of their shimmer shades, and there are a few others described as a shimmer, and then some of them are described as a foil shadow. So those are going to be more of like a metallic, like more opaque shadow, whereas the shimmer is more of like a topper. But this is one of my favorite eyeshadows in my whole collection. I just think it's so useful whether I'm using it by itself or as a topper. It just comes in handy so often. Alright, I don't think this would be a one and done eyeshadow video if it didn't include some ColourPop Super Shock shadows. So these two are actually very recent additions to my collection, and these are the only two Super Shock shadows that I currently own, but I think this is such a fun formula if you want something that's more of like a cream to powder shadow. And these are definitely some of those eyeshadows that make it look like you put a lot more effort and time into your makeup than you did. So the shades I have here are both, they're actually kind of similar to each other. We have Ritz and A Little Quirky. These are both ultra glitter shades, so they have like quite a bit of sparkle and shine. If you want something very glitzy, this is a great option. So here are those two shadows swatched side by side. You can see they're kind of similar. So this one right here is Ritz. That's the more neutral of the two. And then this one here is A Little Quirky. That one has more like warmth to it. So Ritz, they describe on their website as a sheer nude with silver glitter. I definitely think that's an accurate description. It looks like all of the glitter in there is just that same silver color. You know how some sparkly eyeshadows, the glitter itself will be almost more iridescent, or it'll have like different colors in it. Ritz is like all that very silvery color. And so because of that, it gives that very like wet sheen to your lids, which I think is so pretty in the summertime especially. And it just looks so expensive and high-end to me. And then the shade A Little Quirky, they describe as a metallic bronze. So that one does have more of a warm base. So both of those two shades, you can see they're pretty similar. I would say, I mean, you know, if you want something more warm and bronzy, go with A Little Quirky. If you want something that's going to be more, that's going to serve as both a one shadow look and as a topper, I would go with Ritz because it has a slightly more sheer and neutral base, and it also has more of that like scattered shimmer effect to it that is going to make for a really pretty topper. I think you could also use A Little Quirky as a topper too, but that one has more of like almost foiled look to it, whereas Ritz is more of like just that like glistening, scattered sparkle. But they're both gorgeous. I love them both. I love them both as a one shadow look too because they have that slightly brownish base, so they blend really well into the crease, and I think it makes it look like you're wearing more than one eyeshadow. Another shadow from ColourPop, but this is such an OG shade from their magnetic singles, and they actually do still sell this one. A lot of my other ColourPop singles have been out of stock for years, but this one they do still sell, and this is the shade Snake Eyes. This is yet another taupe. I hope you guys like taupe because there's a lot of taupe in this video, but this is such a pretty taupe shadow. This one they describe as a metallic pale pink taupe. If you like a rosy taupe, this is a great shade, and the great thing about shades like this is like the perfect shade for a one shadow look because it has a metallic finish. You can see like almost like a silvery pink finish there, but you can see when you turn it away from the light, it does have a slightly deeper taupey base to it. So this is another one of those one and done eyeshadows that is going to make it look like you're wearing at least two shades on your eyes. Like it looks like you have a matte shade in the crease, but you don't. It's all just this shade. That is one of my favorite single shadows from ColourPop. I've had it for years. It has survived many a declutter, and I just think it's so beautiful. I'm glad that they've kept this shade around because I think it's so pretty. So most of the eyeshadows in this video have been single shadows, but I did want to mention two palettes that are really just filled with beautiful one and done eyeshadows, and they are these two from Flower Beauty. These are the Flower Jungle Lights and Desert Lights palette. So both of these are all shimmer palettes. They all have just these stunning foiled shimmers in them. This is a formula kind of similar to a ColourPop Super Shock shadow. They have like almost like a bouncy sort of feel to them, which is a texture I really like for one and done shadows because you can easily just apply them and even blend them with a finger if you want to. Normally I'll use like some kind of, you know, eyeshadow crease brush to blend them out, but you can definitely use just a finger to blend these. But what I love so much about these two palettes, I would say Desert Lights is my favorite of the two, but they're both so fun, and Jungle Lights has some really great pops of color in it. But what I love so much about both of these palettes is you can pick any shade you want from these and it's going to make a beautiful one and done look, especially with Desert Lights. So the shade that I demoed for this video is this shade right here. It's called Horizon. That is such a stunning shade. It's like a cross between a bronze and a rose gold. It's, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. You can see like all of these shadows. This is another one of my favorites for a one and done look, this one here. So there are those two shades. And then Jungle Lights. Jungle Lights has some great pops of color. I actually love this coral shade here, Tiger Lily. And then my favorite shade out of this whole palette is this one here, Wild. It's this light purpley taupe. So those are just a few of the shades from those two palettes, but I mean, just look at how foiled those are. These are so much fun. If you like one and done shadows and you want just a whole palette of options for one and done shadows, I would say either one of these would make a great choice. Desert Lights if you want more rosy neutrals, and Jungle Lights if you want a few more pops of color in there. These are both so much fun. I would love for Flower to come out with more palettes in this line. I would totally collect them. Like if they came out with more, I would feel the need to buy them because this is such a unique formula. It is a little bit pricey for the drugstore. So is that Chrome Crush pressed pigment, but I think these Flower shadows specifically give some of the most high-end looking eye looks that I can do with my collection. And honestly, same with those ColourPop Super Shock shadows. Like if you want something that's gonna look very expensive, get these. And there is a reason why I did not include my Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize cream shadow. I have this in the shade Rose Gold. This is, I mean, at least this shade, I haven't tried any other shades, so I don't know for sure, but this shade specifically, I think you can definitely skip. I enjoy the formula. I think it has a nice, like, buttery, creamy formula, but you do not need to spend $34 to get a rose gold like this. I mean, all of the rose gold shades in the Desert Lights palette are way more foiled, more dimensional, more interesting looking than the Charlotte Tilbury cream shadow. And if you want a rose gold shade like this, you can easily get that type of look from something like the e.l.f. No Budge Shadow Stick in rose gold. So hopefully this video goes to show that you do not need to spend a lot of money or a lot of time to get a beautiful eyeshadow look. Let me know down below, what are your favorite one and done shadows, whether it's a single or a shade in a palette that you like to wear as a one shadow look. Let me know. I'm always on the hunt for more of this type of eyeshadow. I just think they're so much fun and great for those days where you don't want to put in a lot of effort, or if you just don't have a lot of time to get ready in the mornings. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you had fun. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I do also have a Patreon and a channel membership if you'd like to support my channel further. Otherwise, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I will talk to you again very soon in my next video. Bye!